Okay, we are recording and are live. Thanks for joining me. This is our first ever digital transition presentation. So for this presentation, we have a couple of guests with us, and we're excited to introduce them and have everybody listen in and see what Kitsap County has to offer for services. So our guests are specifically Kirsten Murray, Jay Hopkins, Melissa Lund, and Sharon Stiffy. I'm going to go to the next page, hopefully. So we'll start off with a welcome and brief introductions. My name's Nikki Eldridge. I'm the transition coordinator for the school district. I don't think Morgan Jones is in here right now. Dora, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Miss Harris, and I teach the 18 to 21 transition program at CK High School with Mrs. Pinard.
Okay, Miss Pinard.
Hi, I'm Katie Pinard, and I am the co-teacher at the transitions program at CKHS High School.
Miss Graham.
Hi, I'm Allison Graham, and I am the high school teacher at CK High School.
And then I introduced myself. Miss Friedman.
Hi, I'm Catherine Friedman, and I work in the YET program.
Perfect. And then Kirsten, if you'd like to go. Is Kirsten in here still?
Sorry about that.
No,
I'm
no
Kirsten
worries.
Murray, and I work for the Kitsap County Developmental Disabilities Employment Program.
Trisha's not here. Jay, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jay Hopkins. I'm a counselor here with the Silverdale DVR office.
And then Sharon, are you there?
I am. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sharon Stiffy, and I'm an advocate, and I am a retired legal assistant, which my job was doing guardianships and assisting parents in obtaining guardianships.
And then Melissa, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm Melissa Lund. I'm with the Kitsap County Parent Coalition, and I work with families of children of all ages with developmental disabilities, finding them resources and referrals.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, everybody. So to start, our presentations are going to go down a line. We're going to start with Kirsten, and then Jay, and then Sharon, and then Melissa. And then Catherine, if you don't mind talking about access services at the end, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay.
So as I said earlier, my name is Kirsten, and I work for the Kitsap County Developmental Disabilities Program. And my program is funded by the Developmental Disabilities Administration. So while I am a county employee, I work under a contract with the Developmental Disabilities Administration, which we call DDA. And because of that, my program only serves those individuals who are enrolled for services with DDA. You can go to the next slide, Nikki. So as you can see here, the values of my program very closely mirror the values of any program that serves persons with disabilities. As far as power, choice, inclusion, all of our employment placements are developed individually, and our employment agencies assign a job coach to work with the student that has the developmental disability. And that job coach's responsibility is to get to know the person, what their skills and abilities are, but also what are those things that they need help with, and then to develop an individualized job for that person that fits what their interests are and what their abilities are, so that they enjoy their jobs, but also so they can be successful. All of our employment is in the community at local businesses that we all frequent. All of our services are provided on a one-to-one basis. There again, because a job is a very personal decision. And all of our jobs are placing folks at minimum wage or better. The days of group supported employment or sheltered workshop, those have faded out of Kitsap County, and so now we only do individualized independent employment. Nikki, you can go on to the next slide. So I understand that this presentation is being recorded for parents to watch at their leisure. So I'm not going to go through these next slides in detail, but because my program only serves individuals who are enrolled for services with DDA, I want parents to know what the criteria is, because the first question asked is, I don't know if my child might qualify for DDA. So Nikki, you can go through to the last eligibility slide. So parents can pause this video, look at these slides in detail to see if their child may qualify for services through DDA. My advice is, when in doubt, apply anyway. It's worth doing the paperwork. If your child qualifies, it opens up many doors, a wide array of services through DDA, not just employment. So it's worth jumping through the hoops to see if your child qualifies, but also to know if they don't, then services for that person would go in a different direction. If they don't qualify for DDA employment services, they may still qualify for services, employment services through the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. So Nikki, you can go on to, here we are, School to Work program. So part of my job is to facilitate the School to Work program. And the School to Work program is being upgraded. I'm calling it School to Work 2.0. We're intercepting students in their second to last year in school. And that purpose is to have the student choose an employment vendor. And when I say employment vendor, I'm referring to employment agencies that specialize in providing services to persons with disabilities, finding them a job. So the second to last year, the purpose of that is to do, it's time limited, but to do assessment and evaluation. We're finding that working with the student in their last year of school may not be enough time for all kids to master the skills that they need, for us to address all their barriers, for them to be successful and find them a job before they exit school. So in their second to last year, there again, the assessment is time limited, but they will choose an employment vendor to work with who will assign them a job coach. That job coach will work with them in the classroom as well as out in the community to gather as much information as possible about that student, so that when they come back to school for their final year, we already have all the information that we need and we know the student, so that final year can be committed to finding that person the job. And we want to hit the ground running, because the school year goes by really quickly, as we all know. And so we want to maximize all of that time focused on finding the student the job, with the goal being that they're job placed before they exit high school. So Nikki, you can go on to the next slide. So what we're hoping to accomplish with the kind of, like I said, the School to Work 2.0 is more information on the student, as well as pulling them into employment support services sooner. Hopefully what we're looking for is better outcomes, so that the student, our goal has always been for students to get a job before they exit high school, but we're finding that some students just need more time. There again, because as I said, the school year goes by very quickly, so that we're going to use this information gathered to help them in their last year of school to find that job. Nikki, you can go on to the next slide. So I want to show folks, this is kind of a timeline of what we try and achieve within different phases through the last years of school. So if you're looking at fall, second to the last year, that's where we would identify those individuals in school who are enrolled for services with DDA, so we know who we're working with. We will also bring DVR into the picture, and so the student will apply for our program as well as DVR. DVR is not funding this first phase, although they do fund School to Work. So we want to have the student must be eligible for DVR services as well as DDA services. So then in the spring of their last year, they will have chosen an employment vendor, and they will have been assigned what we call a job coach. Some agencies also refer to them as employment consultants, but that's when the assessment piece will happen, with there again, the job coach getting to know the student, observing them in the classroom, gathering information from the paras, the family, and also looking at how quickly does the student master new skills. what are job sites that work well for them, what are job sites that don't work well for them. And they will write up a very detailed report that will be shared with the family, with the teacher, as well as with DVR. So there again, when we enter into the last year of school, everybody already has this information. And so we can focus that whole year on developing, placing, training, supporting that person in their job, which we hope will be a long-term employment placement. So does anybody have any questions about job foundations, or what I'm calling School to Work 2.0? Essentially what we've done is we've lengthened and enhanced the program there again to improve outcomes, which the outcome is the student has a job before school's out.
Not a question, just a clarification.
Yes.
So applications will be in the fall with students starting in January, correct?
We're looking at, yeah, most likely January.
Okay.
And the employment vendor will decide how long the assessment period needs to last. So if they're feeling that it needs to be a more lengthy assessment period, they may start in January. Others may start in March.
Perfect. Thank you for all of that information, Kirsten. We really appreciate it. Claps for Kirsten. Okay,
Thank you
Jay,
for the opportunity.
you're welcome. Your turn.
Thank you.
Okay, hi. So I'm Jay, and I am with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. I'm a counselor. We're located out in Silverdale. I'm going to talk. You can go ahead and switch slides. I'm going to go through touch briefly on the DVR's transition services and how that works in conjunction with all the other programs out there. Go ahead. Thank you. So DVR's mission obviously is to empower people with disabilities to achieve a greater quality of life by obtaining and maintaining employment. Keyword is maintaining it. We want you to have the job and have it forever. If not, you can come back and we'll help you look for more. Go ahead, go to the next one. So the DVR is a program for people with disabilities who want to work. That is probably our biggest qualifier, is you want to work. Everyone has a right to work and live as independently as possible, and it's our job to help individuals obtain and maintain competitive, integrated employment. This is what Kirsten was talking about beforehand, where we don't have the special sites away from everybody. Competitive and integrated employment is in the community side by side with people with not disabilities, earning the same wage and having the same opportunities to advance. Got ahead of me. So transitional services, across the board, we start with the same ages, 14 to 21, and then we can go on to 24 with the transitional services. 14 is where we really start stepping in, and we're kind of a consultant with the school district, helping them look at the IPE, the individual education plans, and making sure we can keep all that stuff in line and you're getting the best process all the way through from start to finish. So with the pre-employments or pre-ets, this is more school-based, where we'll step in and we'll help you with job readiness, job exploration, and actually get you some time out in the community, typically during the summer months, to find some paid time to really practice a job or learn skills, soft skills such as community or customer service, and really just explore. Whereas transition services, this is where we're going to work with you individually and find you that job in an integrated environment. So you're going to have that job and you're going to be making money, and this is how you're going to earn your living. Okay. So we have 5 areas of the pre-ets. The job exploration, again, this is helping you get out there, see what's out there, and kind of help get you motivated. It also gives you an idea of what you're learning in school, how that ties into the real world and the realities of being in a workplace. Gives a student chances to understand how college education or technical training might help them move forward. Readiness training, this is where they learn the soft skills, customer service skills, whether they have that ability or maybe they're just not cut out for that, or a certain type of job might be too stressful for them. It helps us identify those. The self-advocacy piece and the post-secondary, that's working really with the DVR counselor themselves to help them learn how, when they're on their job sites, some of the things, their legal rights, to help them advocate for themselves, and then to get them an idea what they may need moving forward as far as going to college, institutes of higher learning, technical colleges, so on and so forth. And in the work-based learning, that's where the fun is, where you go out, you practice on a job, you get paid to do the job. And all this is going to be based on your needs. We're going to collaborate with your school staff. We will also look and make sure it aligns with your abilities, your interests, and your transitional goals. Go ahead. Some of the questions we ask as you move forward into the vocational rehab services, and these services will tie in with all the earlier learning stuff. And we'll look and see if you had the pre-employment transition services. We will also evaluate your disabilities. Have you had any kind of individualized services? And are you interested in employment after leaving high school? DVR is a completely voluntary program. There's been some struggles before to not really recognize that, but it is voluntary. Go ahead, I didn't know there were transitions to this one. So as we establish it, your eligibility, we're gonna look for the documentation. Some of the things we'll look at, Kirsten had in her slides with all the doctor's notes and things like that. And then we're gonna look at how those disabilities create barriers to employment. That gives us a good plan on how to move forward and put services in place, assistive technologies in place to help you get that job. And then we're gonna look at, after we've identified all the disabilities and done the evaluation, is can they actually benefit from DVR services? There are a handful that are just so gravely disabled that there's just nothing we can do to help them. Go ahead. One more. So some of the stuff you can note that we're going to need, we'll need a state ID card or a driver's license, a social security card. We have those on file to make sure they are who they say they are. And then we will go out and we will get documentations from doctors, psychologists, specialists. We'll request the school records, and all this helps us develop a big picture on how to best wrap around our services for that individual. Go ahead. So as you go through the individual process, we receive the referral request. In this case, the schools reach out to us. We'll meet with them. We will send out the packet for you to start doing the intake, and then we'll start gathering all that information we just talked about. And then we will move towards eligibility. So once, it says here, once the application's signed, right now because of us working remotely, we're actually using it from the date it's received in our office. So when you mail it back to us or it's emailed back to us, whatever format we get it, we will stamp it, and that'll be this day we start. We've had instances where we sent them the packet, they mailed it back 60 days after they signed it, so it kind of put us in a bind. After the person has been deemed eligible, there's kind of two paths from here, and we're going to talk about they're eligible for services right away, which would be category 1, and this will move on to developing a vocational assessment and an individualized plan for employment. And then we'll work with our providers to help them get employment. So the other option there, if you go to the next slide, please. This is called the order of selection. Unfortunately, Washington State, we don't have the money to serve everybody. So as we go through and we find you eligible, we'll also be determining a service category. Only service category 1 right now is eligible for immediately for services. Then you're categorized down successively and put on a wait list. We are pulling people off a wait list. There was kind of a 2-year pause, but people are coming off the wait list now and receiving services. So that's kind of where we are. Are there any questions for me right now? I know that was kind of fast, brief, and great, thank you.
Okay, Sharon, it would be your turn.
Okay, thanks. So as I said before, I'm a retired legal assistant, and my job for about 9 years was doing nothing but guardianship work, and that is preparing the documents and talking with the parents and getting the information as far as medical report and so on and so forth. When my boss retired, we took on the fact of doing pro se work, meaning that the guardian or the petitioner would represent themselves in court, but they would have somebody kind of guide them through it. And so that's basically what I do, is I help them prepare all the documents. I help them get them filed with the court. I help them go before the judge, because if they go in to purchase the package, it's quite daunting. The package alone is quite daunting to get a guardianship going. They do have a court facilitator who does help. But what I do has been approved by the first judge that approved everything was Judge Dalton, and she agreed that, you know, what I'm doing is fine. I don't give legal advice. If somebody has something, I refer them to a professional that can help them with that. But I guide them through it, and they don't have the cost involved as far as going to an attorney. Because that's where most of the cost for all this is. These young people or disabled people don't get much to live on as it is, and to pay attorney fees, it's kind of unfair. There is a class they must take, required by the state of Washington, and they go on there and take the class. It kind of explains everything to them as far as what Washington requires in a guardianship. And that must be completed before they are appointed a guardian. The court appoints them a guardian ad litem, which comes and talks with the petitioners as well as the incapacitated person, and gets a picture of their life and what it is that they need to succeed. Because once they turn 18, if they don't have a guardianship, that's where some of the disabled get into, for lack of other words, trouble, because they sign things they can't understand, or procedures they have, or it's just not a good thing. So if they have a guardian to represent them, it kind of gets them through that. The process takes about 6 weeks from the time we initiate the paperwork until the guardian ad litem meets with them and does their report. They're appointed. In 90 days, there's a group of documents that they must complete at that time. And then in a year, we will do what they call a court accounting. And that is done due to their finances that they may get. Some do get Social Security, some get SSDs, SSI. So the court does require that the guardian maintains and disperses and manages that money correctly for them. A power of attorney does not do well for the incapacitated person. So if they have a power of attorney prior to getting the guardianship, that is dismissed. There's lots of information in the information that Nikki's showing you right now, and it's a little much to go over. It's mostly on an individual basis anyway, but you can be guardian of the person or guardian of the estate, or both. It depends on the disability and what the guardian ad litem recommends. Parents have a lot of say in this when they discuss this process. So if they're capable of obtaining a driver's license at some point, they won't have that right taken away. Voters' rights are something they look at. Do they understand how to vote? Do they even care to vote? And so on. A guardian can be really anybody as long as they're over 18 and that they have done their online class, they have no criminal background history, or any kind of civil suits against them. So it can be, you know, grandparents doing it for grandchildren, or aunts or uncles doing it for nieces and nephews, or it can be a neighbor that's looked after a person and they feel they can handle their needs. So it really can be anybody as long as they pass the requirements. less restrictive. Like I said, it can be limited, a limited guardianship or a full guardianship. Limited meaning that they might be able to handle some funds and not have anybody really be attached to those funds, but somebody that maybe can just look it over and make sure they are spending them correctly. We talked about the guardianship taking place. Presently, the hearings are being done by Zoom. The guardian ad litem and the petitioner will appear by Zoom. If the person does not have access to Zoom, they do it by phone. And that's pretty much it on my end. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions? And Sharon, are you doing in-person meetings right now or over Zoom?
I am doing in person. I actually met with a family today that is in Central Kitsap that I'm helping her with guardianship.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And your contact information is at the beginning, and the entire PowerPoint will be available for download.
Great.
Melissa.
Okay, hello. Now, I provide local resource and referrals for a myriad of DD issues. As children, I do it from birth to long-term, aging and long-term care. The services for our young adults could be anything from applying for DDA services, SSI disability, job coaching, employment. I'm working a lot right now on mental, behavioral health issues, getting referrals for families and working with their teams if they have them. Counseling, housing, special ed if they're still in school, and high school transition, and again, aging and long-term care. So I'm kind of a Jill of all trades. You contact me, and the families can contact me, and I will give them any information I have from my long lists of contacts and resource information that I've gathered over the years, or I will go out and try and find it and get that back to them. Kitsap County Parent Coalition, which I call KCPC for short, we send out newsletters periodically, and I also partner with PAVE and an autism consultant to provide workshops during the school year. So we'll have a number of workshops during the school year, and we'll alternate them. They're always a different IEP school topic or different autism issues. So lastly, I work with parents on various DD legislative issues in Olympia and Washington, D.C. So usually about funding, or keeping funding or expanding funding for various issues such as DDA services, housing. But then I also work on other issues such as removing subminimum wage, expanding Medicaid, laws that are changing laws or rewording laws to be a little more DD friendly and people first, expanding programs such as supported decision making, and personal rights issues such as the ability to have the friends you choose. Sometimes parents as guardians kind of overstep their guardianship bounds, and then also LGBTQ rights, because I have had some LGBTQ DD clients who have been held back by their families due to maybe a religious issue or just uncomfortable issues. So healthy relationships would be another one. I do have a special piece I do on guardianship where I provide free overview and training for parents. I do a one-on-one. I start out with a one-on-one overview on guardianship. I provide a lot of resource documents, and then the actual court paperwork for them to fill out. Then I don't do much further than that. They can continue to ask me questions, but between myself and the court facilitator, we try and help them go through the steps. So I think Sharon already went through it, so I'll just very quickly, we just go through I'll help them with the lay guardianship training, filling out the paperwork, making all their copies, going before the judge, getting the guardian ad litem appointed. The report comes back, then they get their oath of guardianship and their guardianship letters, and then 90 days for financials and care plan. And then, as Sharon's talked about, the periodic reporting will start. So that's 1 year, usually 1 year after, and then the judge will do probably usually every 3 years you go back. So the nice thing about teaching the families about guardianship is then it empowers them to do it by themselves from then on. So if you're going to look at decades of reports, that could be very pricey for some of our families if they have to pay them, you know, that money every so many years for a lawyer. So during this process, I will also, during this time as the children are aging into adulthood, I do help families apply for SSI disability, free cell phone programs, and other services if they have not applied for them before. I sometimes get families who have never asked for DD services their child's whole life. And so then I look at getting them help with DDA or counseling or whatever they come to me with about. And with the guardianship piece, I do also offer alternatives to guardianship and information about supported decision making for those families who feel like their child could actually take on more of a role for themselves and make their own decisions. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Melissa, for attending. All of that information was most excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, Catherine, are you ready to talk about access?
Yes, I will. Just briefly, we were not able to have somebody from Access Services join us, so I was just provided this information. So just as you know, Access Services is part of Kitsap Transit, and it is basically used for seniors or those folks with disabilities. It is a door-to-door pickup and drop-off service, which for our population, our students, that is very reassuring for parents. There is a process to go through. Right now, they are not offering training, but there is a training website available. They anticipate hopefully by July perhaps being able to do that, but to have clients go in or people that are applying to go in and actually get that service, they're not doing that. They are also not taking applications for Access Service online. It is all being done paper copies and by mail. So Nikki is showing the slide here with this contact information, but the training that they do offer is one-to-one, one-on-one training, and the lady that does that is Annie Chapman. She's actually in the video training that we can provide the link for, which is great, because if parents are showing this to students, then that is actually the person that they're going to be receiving the training from, which is really good. Reserving for rides is done online or via phone. I think that's about it. Applications are online. They're in 3 different languages. If you're having trouble, if parents need help with filling out that application or even eligibility, Lori Hone is the person to contact, and her number is on the slide. So Lori is a good person for parents to get in touch with first of all, and definitely Annie Chapman for the training one-on-one.
Perfect. Thank you,
Many of our
Catherine.
students have used this in the past, and they have been able to go to their work experiences, and then from their work experiences, they're picked up and taken home. So it really gives our students in that 19 to 21-year-old range, these students that are transitioning, this pre-independence and preparing them for adulthood once they've left school. So that's it.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, any questions for this program, please feel free to call Lori Hone at 360-478-6914. I went too far. And that is the end of our little presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your teachers. Please feel free to reach out to these programs and the people that represent them. Catherine and myself are always available via phone and email. Please feel free to send us emails and or call us. And we hope that this has been beneficial and helpful and that it serves a good purpose. Thanks everybody for showing up and attending and participating. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you.